Let's talk about on the weather actually. Let's talk about the rainfall deficit. And last week we saw that almost a 25% deficit in the rainfall, which is obviously going to create a lot of problems. I'm assuming towards inflation, as well as it's going to create, rural demand for the employment scheme. Again, pushing on the fiscal deficit. How do you see that entire picture?
See, it's around 21% at this point in time, the deficit, and it's obviously not good. The reason it's not good is because much of Indian agriculture is rain-fed, right? It's not, you don't have the kind of extensive irrigation networks that a lot of other countries, a lot of developed countries in the world do. And most of the farmers in India are sustenance farmers, right? So clearly it hurts a section of society, a group of people who are not really prepared for the kind of risks that producing crops in weather like this entails. It delays the sowing season for a lot of people, and because much of agriculture is rain-fed, a delay could well mean a deferment. You just miss the sowing season for one entire year. So it affects what is called the kharif crop, which is really the summer crop harvested towards the end of the year. And you will definitely see shortfall in several areas. A rise is an issue. And of course, I must caveat things here by saying that we've had a bumper crop last year. So obviously there are stocks and everything else, but there's still an issue. You need to keep producing. You just can't depend on reserves that you have. Pulses could be an issue, and pulses is a big issue because the inflationary effect of pulses is far more significant than the inflationary effects of anything else. Pulses are actually a staple in Indian cuisine. Whether you look at the north, you look at the south, east, west, everywhere, it's one form of pulse or the other, which serves as the fundamental source of protein for a lot of people. So it's a part of their diet. Without pulses, it's going to be very, very difficult. If you look at this big spike in inflation that happened 18, 20 months ago, much of it was led by what was happening in pulses. And the problem with pulses is not too many other countries in the world grow the kind of pulses that we do. Burma does. But again, you may be able to import a little bit from there, but from most other countries, you won't be able to import pulses. So what do you do? So it will have some effect on food inflation. It will have, to me, the more worrying thing is what it does to the sustenance farmer, because these people won't really be able to sow a crop this year. They will have to, the state will have to step in and rescue them in some way, because I really think that if things go on like this, and at this point in time it does look that way, because June 1 to July 13th is the period when 70% of the rain that falls during the entire monsoon season falls, and in that you have a shortfall of around a fourth, right, between 21%, 22%, whatever the number is, and it's going to be very difficult to make that up in the remaining period, because the monsoon actually lasts till the middle of September, or early September. It's going to be very difficult to make that up in the remaining period when only 30% of the rain that falls during the overall monsoon falls. So mathematics of it seem to suggest that it's going to be a poor year in terms of monsoon. Eventually you might get a number which is 15% deficit or 16% deficit, or could be worse. At some point in time, the government is going to have to step in and say, listen, here's the relief package, here's what we're going to do. That's going to take money, not going to help the fiscal situation any bit. So things are going to be tough. We're going to have to spend some amount of money. I don't know how large, but some amount of money on a relief package. It's not going to work out well for the economy at the end.
Okay, so finally, looking at the larger picture, as you said, yesterday we know that the World Economic Update was out, and it didn't have any great news at all. In fact, is lowered the global growth forecast as well as the forecast projected for India. So what do you think is driving this constant depreciation of our growth, and where do you see us moving?
Well, in India's case, it's very clear. Part of it is because we are integrated with the global economy far more than we were in the past. So anything that happens in the Eurozone will have a ripple effect here. So one part is that. The other part is the kind of mess we've gotten ourselves into. I think the fiscal situation is it's fairly critical, and especially given that you may have to end up spending more because of the failure of the monsoon. You will not be able to do a lot of things that you have to do to bring that under control. So, and we haven't really made this country a great destination for investments through by either not legislating the kind of reforms that need to be legislated, what people popularly call second generation reforms, or we've actually gone the other way, and we've made a lot of changes in the policy regime, which actually makes it very difficult for companies to come in and invest here, because there's a lot of uncertainty about the policy regime. And if there's one thing that investors look for, it's certainty in the policy regime. But overriding everything is the fact that, everyone keeps speaking of this period in the 2000s, 2004 to 2008, when India just grew rapidly. That was at a time when there was an excess of liquidity in the global economy. You don't have that situation now. So even if you create an extremely conducive environment for both corporate investment as well as portfolio investment in this country, there's no guarantee that you're going to see the kind of inflows that you saw at that point in time, which really fueled a lot of growth. So I think the IMF has probably taken a lot of these factors. The fiscal deficit, it's mentioned very explicitly, is very, very worrying. It's probably taken a lot of these factors into consideration and said that India will probably grow only by this much.
Okay, so on that uncertain note, thanks a lot, Sukumar, for being on this show. So, well, the economic growth doesn't look very encouraging, but then hope is all we have to live by. Hope you enjoyed watching this show, and stay tuned for more. Thanks.